Okay, imagine this. A miniature empire. But it's not science fiction. It's real, happening like right under our feet.
Right.
You've got these elite warriors. They launch these super coordinated raids.
Yeah.
Not for land, not for gold, but to kidnap babies.
Kidnap babies. Wow.
Yeah. The young from neighboring colonies.
Right.
And then these captives, they're basically brainwashed into lifelong servitude. They do everything.
Everything. Like what?
Gathering food, raising the captor's own kids, fixing the house, all the menial stuff. Well, the masters, they just focus on conquest and making more warriors.
That sounds intense, almost unbelievable for ants.
Right. But it's the everyday reality for Polyergus ants. Welcome, everyone, to Dance Playing. This is the show where we unpack the most intriguing stories from the natural world.
I'm Lily.
And I'm Edward.
And today, we're diving into something that honestly sounds ripped from a sci-fi epic, but it's all happening in the ant world.
We are talking about Polyergus ants. You might have heard them called Amazon ants, or maybe more pointedly, slave makers.
And that name comes from their pretty ruthless parasitic lifestyle.
Exactly. And you're about to find out how these creatures evolved into what scientists call obligate social parasites.
Obligate meaning they absolutely have to live this way.
Precisely. They are utterly dependent on enslaved workers from other species just to survive. They've actually lost the ability to do basic colony chores themselves.
Wow. So our mission today is to really get into the biology, the behavior, the, evolutionary quirks of these Polyergus ants. We'll be drawing on scientific studies to figure out what makes this slavery system one of nature's most, astonishing adaptations.
We want to give you that shortcut to being well-informed, maybe with a few surprising facts and probably more than a few aha or maybe oh wow moments along the way.
Definitely. So let's start with the basics. Who are these ant tyrants?
Okay, so zooming in, Polyergus. It's a specific genus, like a family subgroup, within the Formicinae subfamily.
And Formicinae is itself part of the bigger ant family, Formicidae.
Right, so think of it like ants is the huge family tree, Fornallicanae is a major branch, and Polyergus is this one very, very specialized twig on that branch. They're not just any ants.
And this isn't some super rare thing found only in one remote place, is it?
Not at all. You find Polyergus species across temperate regions, mainly in the northern hemisphere.
Right. Like Polyergus lucidus, you find that one down in Florida's pine flatwoods, like those sandy, acidic spots.
And then there's Polyergus breviceps out in the deserts of the American Southwest.
And Polyergus samurai. That one's interesting because you find it in parts of Asia and North America. So they're pretty widespread across different kinds of environments.
So given this extreme specialization, who are they actually targeting? Do they just raid any old ant colony? Or is it more specific?
That's a really key point. They have a very close, almost exclusive relationship with their host ants. And these hosts are usually from the genus Formica.
Formica, okay.
And this fits really neatly with something called Emery's rule.
Emery's rule.
Here.
Remind me.
It's this observation, or maybe hypothesis, that social parasites, like our slave makers, tend to evolve from species that are already phylogenetically close to their hosts.
So they're basically exploiting their close evolutionary cousins.
Exactly. It makes sense, right? It's probably easier to hijack or manipulate a system that's already quite similar to your own biology and social structure.
That makes a lot of sense. So what do these colonies look like when you have both Polyergus and Formica living together? Are they huge?
Surprisingly, no. The colonies themselves are usually relatively small, maybe 400 to 600 workers total.
Oh, okay. That's not massive.
But here's the kicker, the really striking thing. The Polyergus individuals, they only make up a tiny fraction of that workforce. We're talking like 12 to 20%.
Only 12 to 20%, so the rest are.
All enslaved Formica workers, sometimes thousands of them packed into that relatively small nest space. It's a completely top-heavy power dynamic.
Wow, an inverted pyramid of labor. And I read their physical traits are just as specialized, like they're built for war, not work.
Absolutely. The Polyergus workers have these really distinct mandibles, their jaws. They're shaped like sabers, long, curved, sharp.
Perfect for fighting, I imagine?
Perfect for piercing enemy armor, for slashing during raids. But, get this, they are utterly useless for almost anything else.
Useless how?
Like they can't dig, they can't carry food properly, they can't even feed themselves easily or care for their own young. It's almost comical, their level of specialization.
So they literally can't do the basic chores.
Exactly. Contrast that with the host Formica workers. They're the jacks of all trades. Foraging, building, tending larvae, even farming aphids for honeydews sometimes. Super versatile.
Which just highlights how incredibly dependent the Polyergus are.
Totally. If you take Polyergus workers and isolate them in a lab setting away from their slaves, their mortality rate shoots way up. They simply cannot survive alone. Their bodies are weapons, and that's pretty much it.
Okay, so their bodies are built for this purpose.
Yeah.
But how do they actually do it? How does the enslavement happen?
Right. That leads us straight to their signature move.
Sure.
Doulosis.
Doulosis. That's the technical term for the slave raids.
Yeah. It's the systematic raiding of host Formica colonies, specifically to steal their brood, mostly the pupa, the little cocoon stage. They haul these back to their own nests to raise as slaves.
And it's not just random chaos, right? You said it's systematic.
Oh, far from random. This is a highly organized, almost military operation. First, scouts go out and locate a suitable target nest, usually not too far away, maybe within a few hundred meters. Then they head back and recruit their nestmates. And they do this primarily by laying down sophisticated pheromone trails, chemical signals, that essentially say, follow me, target this way.
Like a chemical map to the victim's doorstep.
Precisely. While some related ants, like Rosamyrmex, might physically carry other adults to a site, for Polyergus, it's all about those potent scent trails guiding the raiding party.
And the scale.
Yeah.
You mentioned thousands of slaves in a colony. How many raids does it take?
Well, a single Polyergus colony can launch maybe up to 14 raids in just one raiding season. Yeah, and in each raid, they can capture hundreds, maybe thousands of pupa. It's designed to be a swift, overwhelming force.
So brute force and numbers play a role, but is that it?
Not quite. They have another trick up their sleeve. Chemical warfare.
Chemical warfare? Seriously?
Seriously. During a raid, the Polyergus warriors release special chemicals from a place called the Dufour's gland. Scientists often call these propaganda pheromones.
Propaganda pheromones, what do?
They basically sow chaos and panic among the defending Formica workers. Instead of mounting a coordinated defense, the hosts often become disoriented, maybe even attack each other or just flee.
Creating an opening for the raiders.
Exactly. It creates that crucial window for the Polyergus to rush in, grab the pupa, and get out quickly. It's incredibly efficient and kind of terrifying.
Okay, so they snatch the pupa, bring them back to the Polyergus nest.
Mm-hmm.
What happens then? How does a Formica pupa become a loyal slave to its kidnappers? Is it just force?
This is where the brainwashing, for lack of a better term, really happens, and it's all about scent. Yeah. As these stolen pupa hatch inside the Polyergus nest, the young Formica ants emerge into an environment saturated with the Polyergus colony's specific chemical signature, their unique scent profile. They essentially imprint on this smell.
So they wake up thinking the smell is home.
Pretty much. They integrate seamlessly, and from that moment on, these enslaved Formica ants perform all the essential tasks. They forage for food, they maintain the nest, they rear the Polyergus queen's brood.
Wait, they raise their captors young.
They do, and get this, they will even defend the Polyergus nest against threats, including raids from other ant colonies, sometimes even raids from their own original species.
No way. They'll fight against their own kind.
They will. It's a chilling demonstration of how powerful chemical imprinting can be. It essentially overrides their innate species recognition and loyalty. Identity and allegiance get completely reprogrammed by scent.
That is profoundly weird. Okay, so that's how the workforce is maintained. But how does a new Polyergus colony even start? Does a queen have to do this all by herself?
It's another incredibly dramatic process. A newly mated Polyergus queen has to infiltrate an established Formica host nest. Usually she does this alone.
Alone. Against a whole colony.
Mostly, yes. Though sometimes a small group might break off from an existing Polyergus colony with a queen that's called budding. But often it's a solo mission. She has to find the resident Formica queen and kill her.
Kill the queen?
Often by literally throttling her with those specialized mandibles. But she can't just charge in. She uses chemical mimicry.
Ah, blending in with scent again.
Exactly. She needs to acquire the host colony's specific scent badge. These are chemicals on their outer shell called cuticular hydrocarbons, or CHCs. She might groom a host worker or rub against the nest walls to pick up the scent and avoid immediate attack.
So she smells like them, gets to the queen, kills her.
Right. And some species, like P. breviceps, the queens even use secretions from their Dufour's gland, those same propaganda chemicals maybe to pacify the host workers during this hostile takeover.
Wow. Coup d'etat in the ant world.
Pretty much. Once she's killed the resident queen and established herself, often coated in the colony's scent, the host workers eventually accept her. Then, her only job is to lay eggs, maybe about 1 egg per hour. The existing Formica slaves handle literally everything else.
Okay, so the coup is successful, the queen is laying eggs, the slaves are working. What's daily life like in this mixed colony? Is it just masters lounging and slaves toiling?
For the most part, yeah, the division of labor is incredibly stark. The enslaved Formica workers do everything productive, cleaning the nest, foraging for food, feeding the Polyergus queen and workers, caring for all the brood, both Polyergus and any remaining Formica brood.
And the Polyergus workers?
They lounge around, they groom themselves. Sometimes they engage in trophallaxis, that's the mouth-to-mouth food sharing, usually receiving food from the slaves. They really are like a weighted-on ruling class or warrior caste.
Lab studies confirm this.
Absolutely. Observations show the Polyergus queen typically hangs out in the nest center, surrounded by attentive slaves. Her own Polyergus workers are around, but there's minimal aggression among them. They just exist, waiting for the next raid, essentially.
It sounds so absolute, but I have to ask, are the slaves completely passive? Is there ever any pushback, any hint of rebellion?
You've hit on a really fascinating wrinkle. No, they aren't entirely passive puppets. There are definite tensions beneath the surface.
Like what?
Well, observers have actually seen slave workers harassing the Polyergus queen, sometimes repeatedly, and occasionally this harassment can even lead to the queen's death.
The slaves kill the queen.
It happens. It suggests that the chemical control, that scent-based manipulation, isn't always foolproof. There's a crack in the armor, a vulnerability in this seemingly perfect system of control.
That's incredible. So the brainwashing isn't always 100% effective. Are there other, maybe more subtle ways their behavior changes?
Yes, definitely. Studies on P. breviceps, for instance, have shown something really interesting. Because Polyergus raids multiple Formica colonies, the slave workforce in a Polyergus nest is exposed to a mix of different Formica colony scents, different CHC profiles.
Okay, so what does that do?
It seems to make the enslaved ants more tolerant and less aggressive towards ants with unfamiliar scents compared to their free-living Formica relatives, who would typically be very aggressive towards strangers.
So living in this diverse, enforced melting pot makes them more accepting.
In a way, yes. Researchers called it a rich social environment that subtly alters their behavior, perhaps making the mixed colony more stable, ironically. It's a strange kind of adaptation to their circumstances.
But there's also outright rebellion, right? More active resistance.
There is, and this is perhaps even more chilling. Enslaved workers have been observed neglecting or sometimes even actively killing the Polyergus brood, the eggs, larvae, and pupa of their captors.
Sabotage from within.
Exactly. It's a subtle but potentially very effective form of resistance, slowing down the growth of the parasite population. And this isn't unique to Polyergus. It's seen in other slave-making ant systems, too. It suggests this deep, ongoing evolutionary arms race playing out right inside the nest.
So, thinking bigger picture, how did such an extreme lifestyle even evolve?
Well, the leading idea, which actually goes back to Charles Darwin himself, is that slave-making likely evolved gradually from simpler behaviors, maybe starting with occasional brood predation between closely related species during territorial disputes.
Stealing food initially, maybe.
Right, stealing brood as a food source. Then maybe some stolen pupa emerged in the predator's nest and, due to that chemical imprinting, started working. Over long stretches of evolutionary time, this could escalate into facultative slave-making doing it sometimes, and eventually into the obligate, totally dependent system we see in Polyergus.
And Polyergus represents the extreme end of that spectrum.
Definitely. And what's really interesting is that this complex slave-making behavior seems to have evolved independently multiple times in different ant groups. Polyergus is just one example.
Wow. And what about genetics? Can DNA tell us more about this process, maybe about new species forming?
Genetics is providing some amazing insights. Studies on Polyergus samurai in Japan, for example, have found distinct host-specific races. Meaning different Polyergus populations specialize on raiding specific Formica species. And these different Polyergus groups show genetic differences, both in their mitochondrial DNA and nuclear DNA.
So they're becoming genetically distinct based on who they enslave.
It looks like it. There seems to be reduced gene flow between Polyergus groups that target different hosts. This is driven by something called host fidelity, Queens tend to invade and raid the same Formica species that their mother's colony raided. Over time, this could lead to incipient speciation.
New species starting to form right there, driven by their parasitic lifestyle.
Exactly. Evolution happening right under our noses, shaped by this host-parasite relationship.
And those chemical adaptations, like the CHC mimicry the queen uses to invade, must be crucial for reinforcing this isolation, too.
Absolutely. Smelling right for a specific host becomes critical, not just for colony founding, but potentially for mating and maintaining those distinct lineages. The chemistry and genetics are tightly linked.
So beyond the drama within the colony, what kind of impact do these ants have on the wider ecosystem?
They definitely play a role. By constantly raiding Formica colonies and stealing their workforce, Polyergus acts as a significant regulator of host populations. They can limit the growth, density, and maybe even the competitive ability of certain Formica species in an area.
A natural, if pretty brutal, form of population control.
You could see it that way, yeah.
But what about the Formica? Are they just sitting ducks? Do they have any defenses?
They're not entirely helpless. Some Formica species, like Ephtalosa, can mount pretty aggressive alarm responses when scouts are detected. They might use chemical alarms of their own, attack scouts, or use multiple nest entrances to evacuate brood during a raid.
So they can fight back or escape sometimes?
Sometimes, but often, especially for smaller host species, the sheer overwhelming force and chemical confusion tactics of the Polyergus raid mean fleeing is the best option. However, despite their raiding prowess, Polyergus ants themselves are actually relatively rare in most ecosystems.
Oh, why is that?
Well, being so specialized makes them vulnerable. They depend entirely on finding sufficient numbers of specific host colonies. If host populations decline, the Polyergus are in big trouble. They're also sensitive to environmental changes. Things like climate change could potentially disrupt the timing of their raids, which are often tightly synchronized with the host's brood development cycles.
So their super specialization is also their Achilles heel, in a way.
It really is a delicate balance.
It's just incredible, the sophistication here. What's some of the latest research telling us? Anything new blowing scientists' minds?
Oh, the research is constantly uncovering new layers. That 2018 study on P. samurai I mentioned, it didn't just show genetic divergence, but also linked it tightly to differences in their CHC profiles, their chemical scent badges. It strongly supports the idea of host race formation, potentially leading to sympatric speciation.
Sympatric speciation, that's new species evolving in the same place, not because they're geographically separated.
Exactly, which is a really fascinating evolutionary process to observe. It suggests the host specialization itself is driving the divergence.
And are we learning more about the slave's behavior too?
Yes, studies on behavioral plasticity are showing just how much the slaves adapt. It's not just tolerance. Sometimes enslaved workers have even been observed participating in raids alongside the Polyergus or mimicking some of their behaviors.
Oh, adopting the tactics of their captors.
It seems like it in some contexts. And remember that UC Berkeley research from 2016 on P. breviceps.
The one about chemical tolerance.
Right. It showed how living under parasitism actually broadened the slave's tolerance for diverse ant scents, reducing aggression within the mixed nest. It's counterintuitive, but this parasitism actually fostered a weird kind of harmony, or at least stability, by changing the slave's fundamental responses.
So bringing this all together, what does this complex, sometimes brutal, sometimes weirdly cooperative world of Polyergus ants really mean for us, for you listening?
Well, I think the Polyergus story is a really powerful illustration of extreme specialization. It shows how evolution can push organisms down these incredibly narrow paths. Effective in one context, yes, but leading to complete dependency. It kind of makes you think, doesn't it? Where might our own human system, our own efficiencies, border on becoming critical vulnerabilities?
That's a deep thought.
And beyond that, these ants are just an amazing natural model system. They let us study the evolution of social behavior, the dynamics of parasitism, the intricacies of chemical communication, even things that feel eerily human, like organized warfare, exploitation, resistance, all playing out in miniature.
Yeah, it's definitely captivating. These Polyergus ants, with their Machiavellian strategies, blending chemical deception, military precision, pure evolutionary ingenuity. They really challenge our simple ideas about cooperation versus conflict in nature.
They absolutely do. They remind us that survival in the real world isn't always neat or nice. It can hinge on the most unconventional, sometimes ruthless alliances or, well, subjugations.
It really leaves you wondering, What does this fascinating, almost terrifying efficiency of the slave maker ants tell us about power dynamics, about the raw drive for survival, not just in the ant world, but maybe reflecting something about our own world, too?
Definitely something to mull over until our next deep dive into nature's complexities.
Absolutely. Well, if you found this journey into the world of Polyurgus ants as fascinating as we did, please make sure to like and subscribe to Dansplain wherever you get your podcasts.
And for the latest episodes, more in-depth articles, maybe some related partner products, and lots more, you can always visit us online at www.dansplain.xyz.
That's www.dansplain.xyz. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.